Video 3 here. This time we're going to do a trade CHANalysis on Jason's team. 4th place out of 6. Shocking. Shocking that he's not 6. So we see here, ended up with about 65 points. Yeah, 65 points ahead of Howard and 105 points ahead of Henry, which is pretty shocking. Not only was he not last, not only was Jason not last, he was ahead of last place by a pretty healthy margin too. You guys should be ashamed. That's embarrassing. I mean, this is a guy who goes off of a 2012, 2013 draft book. He hasn't scouted anything in 5 years, at least. And you guys end up quite a ways behind him. Let's take a closer look at his team. Obi, Kachuk, Landeskog. When he drafted Kachuk, he probably thought that was Keith Kachuk. Still ended up being pretty good at 94 points. That's pretty damn good. Awesome Matthews. Brent Burns should have been on my team. Flower. Ain't no pinner Jeff Skinner. That's right. Oh, look at this. Look at a couple kings here. Kopitar with 71 points. Don't fuck around. Dustin Brown, 62 points. Those are the kings you draft. You listening to this, Howard? Not guys like Nogelchuk, 42 points. Toffoli, 40.5 points. Carter, 40 points. It's pathetic, man. Like, if you're going to draft players from a shitty team, at least draft the good players. Took Jason a couple years to learn that, but at least he got those ones right. Yeah. Oh, hat-trick Pornquist? Ooh. Well. Yeah, the other guys are good enough to carry the team. Yeah, pretty solid. I mean, even myself, I was only like less than 200 points ahead of him. So this is Jason's first, I believe these are his first 2 trades. He initially had Pacioretty, but I think Pacioretty went down with an injury, so he dropped him for Pominville on November the 11th. Don't know why the fuck he would drop Pominville. He was hot early. It just shows you guys how little this guy actually pays attention to the league. Pominville was hot for maybe 2 weeks. Oh yeah, let's drop Pacioretty for Pominville. But I think, yeah, and then kept him around until February 25th. Then dropped him for David Krejci. Which, so, I mean, Krejci would have given you 83 points if you had drafted him and kept him since the beginning. But, yeah, these 3 players, Jason ended up with 40 points. Just let me double check. 23, 14, and 3. Yep. 23, 14, and 3. For 40 points, of course, if he was patient and just believed in Pacioretty, waited for him to come back and start scoring, he would have ended up with 51 points. So, because he made those trades, negative 11 points. That's the first red trade we've come across here. And he still came out ahead of Howard and Henry. Be it just ended up drafting and keeping Pominville. That would have been 39 points. 40. 2 trades to end up at negative 11 points. And he's not in last place. Shit. This is his other trade. This is actually his first trade of the season, it looks like. Oh, that's right. He drafted Tom Wilson. We gave him shit for it. And Tom Wilson gets a 20-game suspension, so decides to drop Tom Wilson immediately for Brian Little. I don't know. I guess he could have done worse. So he picked up Brian Little, kept him for the entire season, 48.5 points. But Tom Wilson came back, and he would have gotten Jason 51 fantasy points here. Excuse me. 51 points. And I was pushing Jason to use his last trade to reacquire Tom Wilson because he was actually doing okay. Because this 51 points is in something like 60 games. But because he hung on to Brian Little, he netted negative 2.5 points. So both his trades, all three of his trades, he did worse with all three of his trades, and he ended up in 4th place ahead of Howard and Henry. That is fucking embarrassing. If that's not fucking embarrassing, I don't know what it is. Jeez. Like, I don't know what else to say about this guy's team. This guy's in New York, barely pays attention to the league. And he ends up with like 100 points more than Henry. 65 points more than Howard. And, if I remember correctly, man games missed. If we sort this, he actually had the most man games missed. I don't know how reliable this stat here is. But to keep it simple, 266 here. So, his team was the most hurt, and he wasn't last. Just let that sink in for a moment here. 266. Man games played 1868, which, yeah, makes sense, it's the least. Points per game, 0.9. Oh, yeah, 0.98. 0.9, 0.93. Yeah. So, I mean, looking at this, it kind of sounds like Jason's team was hit with a lot of bad luck. Some bad choices in there, but luck also played a factor with injuries and suspensions. And he's still not in last place. Wow. I'd have to say Jason and his team overachieved last season. Big time. Big time. Props. Probably going to be last this season, though.